Freelance is a type of career that's very common, that pays well, and that offers a lot of freedom. It's not a scam, it's very common. In fact, about a quarter of all the workers in the world do freelance work. It's a normal thing that a lot of people do. It's just that most people are not really aware of what freelance is unless they're in one of those jobs that is a freelance job. But you're surrounded with people who do freelance all the time. You probably have family members who are freelancers without you really knowing that they're freelancers. So today I'm going to explain to you what freelance is so that you know if it's for you. Roughly speaking, what freelance means versus normal jobs is that when you have a normal job, you usually have a boss that pays you. While if you do freelance, you don't have a boss. You're your own boss, but that means you have to find your own clients who are going to pay you. Right here, I have a list of different jobs that are very common that are usually freelance jobs. So you probably have plumbers around you. A lot of them are freelancers. Graphic designers are often freelancers. Photographers, tattoo artists, personal trainers, writers. They're all examples of people who freelance. So there's a lot of differences between freelance and normal jobs, and I'm about to list a lot of them for you right now. So the first difference that really major is how much control you have over your schedule. As you probably know, in a normal job, your schedule, your work schedule is usually very stable, but at the same time, it's very fixed. You usually don't have much control in a normal job as to when you work and when you don't work. It's your boss who decides, and you have to ask them for permission when you want to differ from the schedule that they give you. If you want to go on a vacation, if you need to go see a family member for an emergency, for example, you need to talk to your boss about that. You can't just decide to not work tomorrow to go to a vacation. You have to ask your boss about that, and usually many months earlier. And if in the morning you feel really tired, yes, you could take a sick day in some countries and some places, but usually you're supposed to go to work anyway, and that, you know, if you take too many sick days without your boss approving, like you could lose your job. But as a freelancer, you're in control of your schedule. You don't have a boss. You decide which days you work, which days you don't work. It's a great benefit to your life. If you feel tired one day, you don't have to go to work. You can just rest. If you have a family emergency or you want to go on a vacation, you just go on a vacation. If you want to take 5 months off because you made a lot of money and you want to have a long vacation, you can do that. You're in charge. If you want to just work for 1 day a week for the next 3 months, you could do that. If you just want to work 7 days a week for the next month, you could do that. You're in charge of your schedule. There's something I need to mention about that, though, is that sometimes you have to take appointments with clients, but you can always call them to change the time of the day or the day where it happens. Like, you can reschedule your appointments, but you still choose when the dates you offer when you're setting up appointments with clients. So you have control over that. And control over your schedule is one of the things that I find the most appealing about freelancing. One of the things that attracted me to freelancing in the first place. When I started to do freelance, I was dating a girl who was in college, and it was really cool because in her college schedule, she often had breaks during the day that were many hours long. So I could just start to work in the morning, and then when her break started, I just went to pick her up at college. We went on dates in restaurants, or we went to go on walks in the forest or in different parks. It was awesome. We just went on dates, and then after that, when her new class was about to start, I would go bring her back to school, and then I would go back home, and I decided if I wanted to work or not. And it was cool because it allowed me to see her in a moment where I would not have been able to do that in a normal job, because most normal job work schedules in my area have people working during those hours. The second big difference is that freelance allows you to have more control over where you work. In most normal jobs, you have to go to the office or the place that the boss decides that you have to do your work. In freelance jobs, you can usually do it where you want. There's some freelance jobs where you have to do it at the client's home, but there's also many freelance jobs that you can do from anywhere. Writing, graphic design, there's so many jobs that you can just do from home or while you're on vacation. Copywriting is a good example that I recommend you check out if that's something that interests you. It's cool. One of my friends, he decided to go on a vacation for many months, and he just went there and did freelance work while he was there. And because he could do his work from anywhere around the world, well, he could just stay in that country as long as he wanted. He didn't have to come back a week later because his vacation time had ended, like in normal jobs. Like if you like traveling, if you'd like to go on other countries often or during long periods of time, freelancing offers so much freedom for that. If you choose the right type of job, that, it's hard to do that in a normal job. And for me, I'm not a traveler. I like staying in my city. I don't really care for traveling in other countries, but at the same time, I don't like traffic. I don't like to drive and it being long because there's a lot of people driving at the same time. So as a freelancer, I decided that as a freelancer, I can decide to work from home and set up my appointments when I had to meet clients in times where if I had to drive, it would not be during traffic. From where I live, if I want to go to the nearest city while there's no traffic, I'm going to save like 30 minutes of time in my drive, and coming back home, that's another 30 minutes. So if I avoid traffic hours, I basically save an hour for the back and forth. And most people who have normal jobs have to drive through traffic. So if you had to do that in a normal job in my city, for example, you would waste an hour every day that you would not have to waste if you did freelance. And if you work 5 days a week, that's 5 hours of your time that are wasted in traffic. I know every country is different. Every place that you live has a different distance, and there's different amounts of traffic. So maybe you wouldn't save an hour a day for being a freelancer, but whatever number is, if you can avoid traffic, you will gain more time in your life that you can spend doing the things you want. A lot of freelance jobs, again, are things that you can do from home. If you're like a programmer, a tattoo artist, graphic designer, writer, web developer like me, you can do that from home. You don't even have to drive. You don't have to spend a minute in your car during that day. You just stay at home and do your work. Like, that's the biggest time saver possible. Difference number 3 is health insurance. In normal jobs, in some countries, you do get health insurance that comes with your job. But if you're a freelancer, you have to pay for your own health insurance if you want one. The next thing I want to talk about is coworkers. In most normal jobs, you're going to have coworkers in your workplace. You might have some in freelance jobs, but usually freelance jobs are more things that you can do on your own. And a lot of people find the workplace just lazy and uncomfortable. Some coworkers are just mean. A lot of people end up with toxic coworkers and toxic managers. You don't really live with that problem in freelance. Of course, you can still get toxic customers, but that happens in every business. So, you still have to deal with that. But, well, actually, you have more options than in a normal job because you can just tell the client to get out the door and you can just stop working with them anytime you want because you're the boss. But being a freelancer just allows you to save a lot of toxic interactions and allows you to avoid a lot of negative experiences with people. Because in freelance, you usually just do your work in a comfortable space that you choose, like maybe your living room, maybe a cafe close to you, maybe a hotel in another country that you want to visit. And there you don't have to deal with the politics, the drama, the toxicity, and that's a benefit. Of course, like for some people, they like their coworkers. They want to have people around. They want to be social. I'm an introvert. I don't really care about that. There's another benefit that normal jobs have over freelance jobs is that usually the employer provides the equipment you need to do your work with. So if there's a software you need, they're going to pay for that. If there's a computer you need, they're probably going to provide it to you. If there's tools you need, they're going to buy them. But if you're a freelancer, you have to buy your own tools. And, if you are a photographer or, some jobs, you have to pay a lot of money for your tools. So you have to take that into consideration. Maybe you're going to have to buy a new computer. Maybe you're going to have to buy a camera or something. It's on you. You don't have a boss who's going to buy it and lend it to you. But at the same time, the equipments you buy are yours. You can sell them later. You can let some of your friends borrow them, I guess. You can also write them in your taxes for some countries so that you get to pay less tax at the end of the years. So there's that, but you have to pay them. You have to buy your own equipment. It's also important to talk about the fact that you also have more control over your income. In a normal job, in a lot of places, they don't want you to work more hours than you want to work, or they force you to work more hours than you want to work. So if you need to make more money this month, in some jobs, they're not going to let you just work more hours. They just want to pay you a set amount. Or in some jobs, it doesn't matter how many hours you work in the week. They just pay you the same amount for the week. It depends on your country. It depends on your job. In freelance, if you spend more hours working, you make more money. And you can choose how many hours you work per week. So if you need more money this month, you can just work more. If you want to save money to buy something, you can just work more. If you have enough money, you want more time, you can work less. You have this freedom. I have a friend who comes from a country in Africa, and there, it doesn't matter if he works more during the day or the week, he's not getting paid more. And he wasn't making a lot of money. And that's just normal in his country. And, there they have 10-hour days, 6 days a week. So most of his life is sacrificed at that job. And they would often have to do unpaid overtime on top of that. Freelance is awesome because I think that if you have to work more, if you have to put more effort, you should get paid for that. I think that's fair. And a lot of bosses and managers don't care about your well-being. They just want to get their boss to be happy about the productivity, or they just want to make more money. So they don't care about you. So a lot of people end up burnt out, overworked, and it's just not a good situation to be in, not pleasant. And I think that's why a lot of people who are working in normal jobs end up depressed and burnt out and just exhausted all the time. But in freelance, if you work more, if you work harder, you get paid more, as it should be. Another difference between freelance and normal jobs is about taxes. In a lot of countries, it's a little bit more complicated to do your taxes at the end of the year as a freelancer. Here in Canada, it's not that much complicated, just a little bit more complicated, but not that much. It takes me a few hours every year more to do my taxes, but it really isn't that bad. I don't know the laws in your country. I don't know how taxes work in your country. It might be a lot more complicated. I don't know. But there's a lot of accountants in every country who understand these laws and can help you do your taxes as a freelancer. So if you find out it's a little bit more complicated, maybe you could just get an accountant. There's solutions. And, remember that freelance is so common. About a quarter of workers around the world do freelance. It's so common that countries, you're not an anomaly to your country. You're a normal type of worker. So it's probably set up in an intelligent way. What I mean to say is, I don't know how it works in your country, but it's probably not that bad. The next difference I want to talk about that's interesting is how much control you have over what you do as a freelancer. In a normal job, you have a boss or manager who tells you what to do. You don't really get to be creative. You don't get to control the process of how you do things in a lot of jobs. You just have to follow the directions. And that's a bit soul-sucking. I hate that, personally. A lot of managers made me feel like my opinions, my desires didn't matter. the way I wanted to do things was not necessarily bad, but if it wasn't the way they wanted me to do things, they would ask me to change. They would sometimes be rude about it. Sometimes, even though you know there's a better way to do things than the way that the managers ask you to do it, you still have to do the way that the managers want you to do it, or else you can get in trouble. And that's annoying because even though you have the best intentions, you want to bring the most value possible to the business, you can't necessarily do it. Or if there's a better way for your own well-being, maybe you don't have a choice. Maybe you can't do the things your way. When I was working as a bartender, I had a lot of clients who loved me. They loved interacting with me. I received bigger tips than most of my coworkers. Clients really liked interacting with me, and they paid more because of it. And that's because I was just natural, conversational. I got interested in people. I spoke with them. I was positive and all that sort of thing. And I let my personality out, and I received huge tips for that. Like $20 tips, $15 tips, when most clients would give like $2 or things like that to my coworkers. And one day, my manager just found the way I talked to clients weird or not normal or different than what the average bartender did. So they decided that they wanted me to follow a script. And clients stopped enjoying conversations with me, and they gave less tips, and they had a worse experience for it. And, they didn't enjoy their time in that venue as much. So the business didn't win for that. I didn't win for that because it was really, really boring to have to follow a script. The customers didn't win for that. Like, it was just a stupid decision from the manager. But managers can do that. It's just how normal jobs work. And eventually, the managers also wanted us to stop talking to our coworkers, even when there were no clients. They just said, hey, there's no clients, but you're not supposed to talk to each other. Which was weird, which just made the work environment really toxic and not fun to be in. And, that's what managers can do. It's just something that happens in some normal jobs. I'm glad I don't have to deal with that anymore. Because in freelance careers, you're in charge. You do what you do. You do it the way that you want to do it. You talk with the people you want to talk with. You tell them what you want to tell them. Well, within the confines of the laws, but still, you don't have restrictive managers telling you how to do things. You do things your way. You choose how you work. You choose when you take time off. You choose how you do things. It's just a much more natural, healthy, for your mental health way to live. Now let's talk about hourly rates. In most normal jobs, it doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't even matter if you're better than your colleagues. You're not going to get paid more for that. Your boss is usually going to pay you as little as possible so that you do the work and you don't quit, so that he can make as much money as possible by paying you as little as possible so he has the most profit possible. I used to work in a web agency as a web developer, and there my boss paid me $18 an hour. And that might sound big for a lot of people, but this is Canada. This is not really that big of a number. But, and more than that, he used to sell our services to clients for $65 or $85 an hour, or in between. So I usually ended up getting paid less than a third of what my services were sold to clients for. So basically, clients gave us about $70. He would give me $18. He would keep the rest. And he did the same thing for all his employees. So that's why he was able to buy new vehicles every once in a while, or new expensive decorations for his home and that sort of thing, while we were struggling to make a lot of money because rent is expensive here and all that sort of thing. So that's just how normal jobs work. Usually you get paid much less than what your services are worth, and much less than what the money that you allow the company to gain from your services. That's just how most companies work. But even though he paid me a lot less than what my services are worth to customers, I still am glad that I worked there, because while I was working there, I managed to see how he was getting clients, how he was getting customers for the business. And so it allowed me to quit that job and try to start to freelance on my own. And when I started to freelance, I basically just tried to get customers the exact same way he was doing it. And because it worked for him, it also worked for me. So, and because I knew how much customers were willing to pay for these services, I just sold my services for the same amounts of money, and I started to make over $50 an hour very quickly. Like, I went from 18 to over $50 an hour very quickly. Like, you can make a lot more money with freelance. A lot more, because you get paid what the customers pay, not what the boss pays you, which is as little as possible so that you don't quit your job. Here's how freelance works. You are your own boss. You find your own clients. You usually have small jobs with a lot of different customers. This means that you have more job security, because even if you lose one client, you don't lose all of your income. If you have a normal job and you lose your normal job, you are in trouble. It also means that you can choose your projects. If a customer comes to you asking you to do a project and the project is against your values, it doesn't interest you or anything like that, or he's not willing to pay you as much money as you want, you can choose to say no. You don't work with them. If they're annoying, if they are mean to you, you can just not work with them or kick them out of your list of customers and stop working with them. You have control. There's many ways to find work as a freelancer. The method that's most talked about on the internet is to use freelance job websites. There are websites online where there's many people looking for freelancers who just say, hey, I need someone to do this job for me. If you're interested, you send them a message, and a lot of freelancers get their clients that way. There's thousands and thousands of jobs on these websites. They are really popular, and it's a great opportunity for a lot of people. Like, if you want to do that, if it sounds cool, you can learn how to do that. These websites work. They're the most popular ones, like Upwork and Fiverr. They're not scams. There's a lot of real jobs on there, and a lot of people make good careers on these websites. And getting paid on these websites is very easy. You get paid directly to your bank account by the website. There's a lot of different ways you can find clients as a freelancer. You can find clients by contacting them directly with your phone or with email. And you can also do mechanical outreach, which is my favorite method. There's many ways you can find clients as a freelancer. I made a lot of videos about that topic. And even if you don't use freelance platforms, getting paid is easy. You can get bank transfers or PayPal transfers. It's very easy to get paid. One of the most appealing parts about freelance for a lot of people is the ability to work from home and control your schedule. So I decided to make a video where I share 10 jobs that you can do from home as a freelancer. If you're interested in seeing that video, you can click right up here or on the link in the description to go check it out. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to support me, please hit the like button and subscribe. And with that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.